What is up, everyone? Dan the Card Man back again. Today we are talking through this Nat Turner conflict of interest potential hanky-panky once again. I've got an update from Nat Turner directly. Again, I have a photo of what this card looked like when it was in a BGS 9.5 slab, so you're going to want to see that. We'll then also talk through this conflict of interest in a bit more detail as it slipped my mind in the last video and I forgot to talk about it. There's a few things happening there that I think need to be talked about. And not to mention that, there's also 3 other cards as part of the same submission that also look like they got preferential treatment, favorable treatment, that shouldn't have got PSA 10s, and it looks like they did. So I'm going to show those as well. There's a few other things we'll talk to, so just stay tuned for that. Now, the first thing will be what this card looked like in a BGS sub. As you can see, it's on screen now. Now, some of you might say, well, how do you know it's the same card? The reason why I know it's the same card was, number one, Nat Turner sent me this personally himself. Number 2, you can see the same piece of card is missing off the front of the card. Now, I forgot to mention, if you haven't seen my first video, I'll do a pop-up on screen now. Check it out, come back, because I'm not going to repeat the things that I've already spoken about in that video. Now, this is pretty, laughable, firstly, because BGS have made the same mistake, but it also indicates that PSA have made probably a larger mistake than we initially thought they did. I very much assume, and I haven't confirmed this, but I think Nat has sent this to PSA as part of his submission within the BGS slab. I can't imagine he would have cracked it out to send it in. And what makes that very interesting is that when you go talk to people that have done crossovers between BGS and PSA, anyone that has done that consistently will tell you that they've found they've got better grades when they've sent in the card by itself rather than sending it in within the slab. So the fact that this has gone from a 9.5 BGS to a PSA 10 has a huge question mark over it, in my opinion, especially based on what I just said, because people find that PSA and BGS as well are a lot more, well, they apply a greater level of scrutiny, they find, when you submit cards of a previous grader or a different grader, because they want to be even more pretentious with regards to their review approach. So the fact that somebody has seen this, very much likely, and I haven't confirmed this, but the fact they've probably seen this in a BGS slab and they've still not noticed that is really crazy. And some of you might say, well, it sort of looks like the rest of the card. Like, yes and no, it does. You gotta understand, this is a die cut card, okay? There's so many more edges and corners, like I explained in the last video, that you'd be expected that they would be applying a high level of inspection on this card. So when you're doing all that, you'd get to this portion and you'd say, well, hang on a minute, the rest of this card has like a refractor finish. What the heck is going on here? Hang on a minute, there's some whiting there. It looks like it's been ripped. Like, you can't sort of just brush that aside as being, oh, they've just missed it. It's like, no, this is a really bad mistake. It's amplified by the fact that it's also been in a BGS 9.5 slab and they've still missed it. That's pretty crazy. In the last video, I said, it probably indicated a really poor PSA process, which I still very much believe. Their grading sucks at the moment, and less like somebody found out within the grading process that it was Nat Turner's cards. But when I show you some other cards within this same submission, it might indicate to you that he did get preferential treatment. I know it's a hard thing to prove, but when you see what I'm about to show you, you might start to think that it is possible. And like I said in the video yesterday, Nat Turner did tell me that the process is anonymized, right? They don't know whose card they are reviewing for a grade. But like I also said yesterday, if somebody really wanted to figure this out, potentially they could have, right? But if they follow him on social media and they see some of the cards and then it comes in and they're reviewing it, that might indicate to them. Maybe these cards didn't come through the same channels, so that also indicated it to them. Maybe there was some whispers on the office floor that the CEO's cards have come in for grading. Like, that may have also indicated that. And again, I still think PSA's grading process really, really does suck. So something like this might not be related to a conflict of interest. But the fact that Nat still submits cards to his own company, I think, is a conflict of interest. And we'll get to that in a second as well. But I want to show you some of these other cards. So one of my subscribers sent this to me, okay? And you can't see the full card now. I've got a close up in a sec. They sent to me some other cards within the same process. And apologies for the white out of my face. And you can see down here that the card I'm currently looking at is also in Nat Turner's registry, okay? So I've taken this screenshot of this card right here. And what my subscriber did say was, if you look at this card, Daniel, and you look up close, you can see there's some chipping on this corner. How did that get a PSA 10? Typically, you don't see that kind of thing on a PSA 10, especially a newly graded PSA 10, because that is very, very key. This kind of chipping can occur on PSA 10s because sometimes the cards move in the slab and they do get hit in certain edges. Typically, you see it on the edges, not so much right here where there is nothing to hit on. But the fact you see that, that looks a little bit questionable. Again, yes, PSA standards absolutely suck lately. They could have missed this, potentially, like they do with some other inserts of the 90s. Sometimes they ignore certain blemishes because they came from the manufacturer. But seeing that, along with what you just saw, in my opinion, doesn't indicate that. They've also sent me this card right here, where you can see, once again, it's also within Nat Turner's registry. I believe this one has an issue on the top left corner. And yes, it does. As you can see, it looks like there's potentially a bent corner or some whiting there. This could be a print run issue where the card may be slightly deviated, but again, that wouldn't have got a PSA 10 in the sense that this white part here might be that white part of the card is just shifted across. But to me, that looks like edge whiting and corner damage. Okay, we can almost go with the benefit of the doubt that this is an issue with the card given the last two cards we've just seen. But it doesn't just end with two cards. There's also a third card. Again, once again, you can see it is in part of, Nat Turner's registry. So it is his card and it's the card in question. And as you can see here, that does not look normal. That does not look like it's meant to be part of the card. That looks like chipping, whiting, also a little bit down here as well. Again, that's 4 cards now in the same submission that look like they have issues either with the surface or the edging or the corners of the card, and they've still got PSA 10s. Now, again, this could just be issues with PSA's grading process, which again would not be surprising. And I've just said again a lot, but their process sucks. Their review process sucks. I've been saying this for months. They cannot keep up with the level of demand that they have. They're making these kinds of mistakes. The thing is, though, the average person that does submit cards gets hit really hard on this stuff. So the fact you've got those 4 things in question, okay, if they're part of the same process, Nat Turner might do an investigation, turn around and say, the person who graded these was a rookie. That's why it's happened. But that could be a little, suspect in the sense that, how lucky that was your explanation for this instance. And Nat Turner did again say to me earlier today that he's still investigating this. He's not making a call either way until he gets the cards back in hand. He wants to exactly confirm what has gone wrong with each of these. I'm going to send him these photos with these images and see what he says to me on these ones as well. But the thing you need to understand here is that one card in isolation, you might be able to say, okay, yes, it is just a crappy process. But when you start seeing more and more as part of the same process and then sitting within his registry, that's where things start getting a little bit suspect, like I said. It could still very much be that these are just errors, right? And it had nothing to do with conflict of interest or hanky-panky. But you can understand why that conflict of interest sits. You've got a CEO submitting cards, and then all of a sudden he's getting PSA 10s with pretty glaring surface edges and corner damage, okay, that other people would have got slammed on. And it goes back to what I said about the great curator in my video the other day about potential conflicts of interest with the market mover Star Wars Index. The biggest thing with these conflicts of interest that I found in my line of work as an external auditor looking at these large financial institutions and these large corporations is that the perceived threat to that independence is everything. It doesn't matter whether it exists or doesn't exist, whether it's true or false. The fact if the market has that perception that a conflict of interest or a threat to your independence, when I say independence, I mean you as an individual being a grader, if you know that it's Nat Turner's cards and you get a bit scared that you might give the boss a wrong grade, you might get fired. There's a potential threat to your independence there. So you give him a favorable grade. Because that perception could exist within the process, you almost have to distance yourself from it and treat it at arm's length. And the way we do that in my line of work is that if my wife, as an example, works on a company and she's in a senior role, I can't then audit that company, right? If she's on the board of directors at a big bank, I can't audit that bank. Because if I discover fraud or potential issues within something that she has worked on or her line of work has worked on, that means that I might give her a favorable finding. I might not report the fraud, as an example, to protect her job and protect my wife, as an example, right? So the fact that sort of stuff could be perceived to happening, to distance yourself and make sure that there is no threat ever to make sure it can't happen, you say, you know what, I can't work on this audit. And what Nat Turner probably needs to do in this instance and say, you know what, guys, I don't think anything has gone wrong in this instance. I think you guys have just stuffed up from a grading process. We're going to fix all these things. Your reviews suck. You're giving favorable grades. You missed all these things. Fix them. But moving forward, to save face for the business, I can't grade with PSA anymore. And I think that's the position Nat needs to take moving forward, because if he doesn't, that look that they're giving to the market is not a good look, okay? And like I said, at least I think I did. If he's a true collector right at the end of the day and he wants to be involved and he wants to show love for his own business and say, you know what, I'm the CEO, I think PSA cards are the best, I want to show my support by the business by getting all my cards graded. You know, it sucks that he can't do that anymore. But these mistakes, they're pretty damning. And they don't offer a good look, a good perspective to the market. These mistakes could just be that. They could just be mistakes by the grader. But when you start seeing them in aggregate and these kinds of questions can be asked, it is not a good look in any way, shape, or form. Nat Turner needs to step away from grading cards with PSA. That is my opinion. I'm probably going to let him know that tomorrow when he tries to give me, or when I reach out to him, I should say, about getting another update on the situation. And Nat did say, at least, I think I spoke about that in this video as well, that he's still looking into the matter. He's not going to give his opinion. He's not going to give a statement until he actually finds out what has gone wrong in this instance. Those 4 cards in aggregate are not a good look. I feel like I'm rambling now. I just think he needs to stop doing this sort of stuff because the conflict of interest is not Well, it's very much real, in my opinion. It might not exist, but it's very much real. That perception is very, very much real, as I just explained in those examples. I don't think I missed anything else from my last two videos. Sometimes when I talk, guys, you need to understand there's a lot for me to talk through, and I do a lot of planning for these videos, but I don't write a script or anything like that. So when I'm talking about this sort of stuff, it's all in my mind, and I'm just talking through the flow of the conversation as I'm talking to you guys as the viewers. So sometimes some things slip my mind that I was like, damn, I should have spoken about that. Now, the three things essentially that we're speaking about today with regards to, the BGS slab, what it looked like, potential conflict of interest, another update from Nat Turner, these other cards, all these things were on my list yesterday, but just through the flow of the conversation, they slipped my mind. So again, apologies. I hope you liked this video. Again, it was very long. Please share your thoughts down in the comments below if you found any other cards that are potentially graded by Nat Turner, and whether or not, or for Nat Turner, I should say, and whether or not you think a conflict of interest does exist. Like I said, I don't think that is the reason why these mistakes occurred. I don't think the people grading the cards knew they were Nat Turner's cards. I'm not suggesting that they couldn't have figured that out if they didn't want to. I just don't think that's happened in this instance. I just think PSA, like I said yesterday, absolutely suck as a grader right now. Their mistakes are becoming more and more prevalent. It's getting way more frequent, and it's just not good enough in any way, shape, or form. And I think that is the reason why this stuff has occurred. I think it's just coincidence that it's gone towards Nat Turner. But I'm not going to say wholeheartedly that that kind of thing could not occur if people didn't want it to occur. So in my opinion, you need to always buy the card, not the slab. Don't look at the freaking label. Look at the card, okay? Do your research. Don't get caught out just by chasing labels, right? Because that's how you get caught out. That's how you get burned as a collector. That's how you lose your money. Just do your own research. Listen to people. Listen to the haters. Listen to the positive guys. Form your own opinion. Because like I've just given you in these two videos, there's a few things in here that you can make up your own mind with, right? I've given you both sides of the story. So share your thoughts down in the comments below. I really do appreciate your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.